Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. It's very early in the day. I'm having difficulty with filming at the moment with the builders next door. I've either got to film before they start and all the noise kicks off, or I've got to film after they've finished when all the kit's on. So it's becoming a bit difficult. I don't know how much longer they'll be there, but so this is an early in the day one before they start. That's the idea anyway. And I'm going to whiz through the rest of the Cattleyas. So this is like part 2. It will be quite a quick look. There won't be any duplicates with the previous video, but I might miss a couple. I'll do what I can. But basically I'm going to go over that back shelf today and have a quick look at them. And in amongst those are the 2 Cattleyas that I did the experiment on and cut the rhizomes to see if it would produce the back budding, growths from the older part of the plant. So we'll have a look at those 2 in a bit more detail and see if it's worked. So let's get going before the builders kick off. Okay, this is the first one, and this is one where we did cut the rhizome. I'll put the link to the original video where we did this. Basically this is a no ID, just a nice orange blooms on this one. This one has always had darker leaves. It's almost as though it gets too much light. This oldest pair of leaves here are going to drop soon. They're starting to crinkle, so that's going to go. But this is where we cut the rhizome on this one here. Yeah. So this now becomes the older part of the plant, and we do have 1 new growth so far. So it has shot out. That's probably a new growth I wouldn't have got otherwise. So this has got effectively a single lead pushing off here. This is the latest new growth, leaf coming out and a sheath. This one has bloomed on virtually every new growth, but I now have a second lead. That's what I was after. With that new lead will come new roots at some point, because these are all older roots back here. They're still functional, but they're old roots. And this will create a new root system farther back on the plant, which will put some strength into it. So it has worked. Just the single eye that's pushed out. That may be it. There may be more, but so far so good. Now this little one's got a nice spike coming on it, pushing on nicely. Looks like 4 buds at the moment anyway. And along with that new growth, something a little strange, we managed to get a 3rd leaf on this one. It's a bifolia, it should normally only have 2, but this one's got 2 leads, so it's heading off in this direction and in this direction. This one's also got a sheath on it, so that one should bloom as well, but it'll be a succession because this one's quite a long way behind this one. See, now this new growth here is producing its spike and its buds, and yet it's only just starting its new root system. As I say, these Cattleyas can vary the point at which the new roots come, and it does pay to get to know. This sort of information is in my notes. It's important to me should I ever wish to repot. I know that a good time to do this one is when the growth is fully mature, because the roots will follow shortly after. So these little bits of information are quite important. So anyway, we should have some blooms on that soon. That is, that's got a strange name actually. It's Cattleya Little Lemon Drops, which in fact is one of the parts of this plant. That's got little lemon drops in it. So some of that is in here as well. And this is crossed with a Cattleya, and it's called Cattleya Why Not? And this has very attractive blooms. It did bloom before, spike's still here. So we'll have some blooms on that one soon. That one's coming on quite well. Nice little compact plant, yeah. So it's never going to fill the whole shelf up, but growing in 2 directions, that's good. Now this is the one with a bit of red in its name. Cyan Yu, Red Pearl, Red Dragonfly. So we did guess it would be red. It bloomed on this growth quite nicely. It now has a nice strong new growth coming out here. It almost looks like it's got 2 leads, but there is no sign of it pushing here, back here. I may actually try cutting the rhizome on this one back at this point, but not yet, because it would only have 2 mature bulbs and a new growth. I'd rather wait till that one is mature and the next new growth comes, then we might have a slice there. But as you can see with this one, the new roots come with the new growth. Yeah, so they do vary. This one didn't have a very good root system when I got it, but the roots have come out of the pot, gone round the pot, and it's now producing some new ones. So no reason why this growth shouldn't bloom, but quite a way off that at the moment. Now I'm going to class this one as a bit of a surprise. My Cattleya Angel Heart, which has the gorgeous fragrant blooms on, I decided to split into 2. This is the old part of the plant. The old part of the plant with 2 new growths pushing out. That was a surprise. And again, roots just starting, because although this had some sort of roots on it, the oldest part of the plant wasn't really that good as far as roots were concerned, but it's starting some new ones to go with the new growths. Yeah. So once it establishes its root system, and gets these 2 new growths mature, we may well get 2 sets of blooms on this. That'll be good. Being the oldest part of the plant, this plant has had problems in its previous life before I got it. So these leaves are old. I'd like to take them off, but then there would be no leaves at all, so they've got to stay for a while. But I'm hoping these 2 growths and the subsequent 2 new growths, these leaves can then come off. So it's quite a way off taking the leaves off, but it really does look bad at the moment. Hopefully the new growths will be nice, clean new growths with blooms on. That'll be good. And this is the other piece. So this was the front end of the plant. Leaves newer. In fact, I think these might even be my leaves, probably. But this was the front end of the plant, and when it was split, it did have a new growth. That new growth is pushing on well. No reason why that shouldn't bloom, unless the plant decides it's not strong enough because it's been divided. But a good new growth pushing on nicely with associated new roots coming out. So, that's establishing a good root system now to go with a nice new growth. It'll be good if it blooms, but it may not. We shall see. As I say, divisions can sometimes stall for one set of new growths. Sometimes they just carry on as though nothing's happened. But strictly speaking, this was pushing my luck because it only had 2 old pseudo bulbs and a new growth. It's better if you've got 3 or 4 when you divide the plant, but I took the risk. So we may lose the blooms on this growth. We'll probably get them back on the next one if we do. Now this one is Young Min Orange. This is the other one where we cut the rhizome. Now what we had was effectively the plant going in 2 directions. Yeah, so latest new growth over this side and this side. So those were going to happen anyway. But it does look like I've got a new growth coming out here. And that is right back at the far end of the plant. The cut was there. So that part of the plant was cut, and this part of the plant was cut as well. So, actually there's another new growth there. That's on an older part of the plant. So this process does look like it works. So in theory, it looks like there might be another one there pushing. Yeah, that's behind the cut. The cut was down there on this one. So yeah, I'd say the process works in the main. I can't do guarantees. It will depend on the strength of the plant and the state of the older part. And there are many factors involved, but the beauty of this process when it works is that you haven't disturbed your roots, but technically you've divided the plant. Yeah. So at a later stage, once these new growths push on nicely and start producing their own roots, the older part of the plant could be taken off as a separate entity, leaving the bit in front of the cut as you've then got 2 plants with active new growths. Whereas often on a Cattleya, when you divide it, you end up with an older part of the plant with dormant eyes, and not necessarily the best of your leaves either. So yeah, this one looks like it's working. Definitely one there, probably one there. and that looks like one as well. So yeah, and I've got the two new growths that I had anyway, this one and this one. They should push on and bloom, and these others will follow on behind. So in theory this could end up with multiple leads. Multiple leads equals the chance of multiple blooms. Yeah, it looks like it's good stuff. This is one of those that I call the straggly types. They have very long, thin pseudobulbs with a pair of leaves on the top, bifoliates. A lot of them take on that shape. I don't think I've had this one long. I've got no tag in the pot, which is unusual for Cattleyas. They're normally tagged, but I should be able to work out which one it is from my notes when I do the video. Latest growth on here, pushing up, 2 new leaves and a sheath. Yeah, I don't feel yes I do, there is a swelling at the base of the sheath, so we should get some blooms on there. And I think this is one I haven't had that long, so that's highly likely to be its first blooms. Let me see, yes it will be, so that'll be a first time bloomer as and when. We'll have to wait and see, but yeah, coming on, first new growth for me, and it looks like it's going to bloom. It's got a reasonable root system. I wouldn't say it's brilliant, but it has produced quite a few new ones. And we've got swellings at the base here, which could be yet another new growth, but it's more likely to be a few new roots. So coming on, it's not bad actually. I mean, if this is the one I think it is, then these leaves were on it when I got it. And they're not bad. This oldest growth here, these 2 leaves are starting to go. That is the oldest part of the plant, the oldest pseudobulb. All the others have progressed away from it. This was obviously kept at some point with a single source of light, because all the pseudobulbs have lent in one direction, whereas now it's growing more upright. So anyway, coming on. This one's a nice little, well, I won't say a truly compact plant, somewhere in between compact and getting a bit big. When you look at the plant here, it looks quite compact. And then it's got that one sticking out the side, which makes it a bit of a nuisance on the shelf, because that one's always getting caught up in other plants. But it's been a reliable bloomer. Shinfong, Little Sun, Young Min, Golden Boy. You know, nice little slips off the tongue easily type name. This is the one that did an odd thing. Its progress is in this direction basically. And it has a new growth coming which should produce some new roots. Roots on this are tatty. I wouldn't say they're good quality. They're there and they're functional, but there has been some dieback on some of the roots outside the pot, and some tips have gone, you know, in the pot. Now it could be that this one's a bit more sensitive to salts build up in the pot, which I've discovered I've got now dealt with and will be dealt with a bit more frequently. So that's the main lead of the plant over here. It's gone round in like an arc. So this is the oldest part of the plant, moving in that direction round to the latest new growth. But round the back of the plant, it's stuck up 2 very poor quality growths in a strange place. I don't know what's going to happen with those. If they produce 2 new growths as well, that'll give me 3 leads, and hopefully the next set of growths near these 2 tiny little ones might get up to full size, and then I've got 3 good leads. But at the moment they're just sitting there, not doing much. They did bloom, I'll give them that, but they were half size, didn't have very good spikes, and were a bit of a surprise to even see. So we'll keep our eye on this one, but this is its main direction of growth. This is its latest new one. That will be full size and will eventually produce some better roots at this end of the plant, so we'll see how that one goes on. But nice blooms. Now this one's not looking very happy at all, but I divided the plant as a no ID, as one of those nice big blousy what I call typical Cattleya type blooms, lots of magenta and bits of gold in the lip, that sort of stuff. But I divided the plant and the better piece went away in the giveaway drawer, and I kept the tatty piece. Not quite sure how that happened, but must have been a soft moment. Anyway, what we've got here is the previous growth here, the latest one, bloomed okay. I do have a new growth, and I do have some new roots coming on. So eventually the front end of this plant will look better. Oldest part of the plant over here, no leaf, not a very good one, but it's got some strength in it, and the leaves are still just about functional to get some photosynthesis going, and hopefully we'll get a single good strong new growth on this one with a better root system, and at some point the older part of the plant can come off. I mean, it might even work cutting the rhizome on this one and see if this back end will kick out, but it is a very old part of the plant. Yeah, so we'll have to wait and see, but we should get at least one bloom on that new growth, but having been divided, I doubt if I'll get a good spike this time round. It could just be a single bloom. It might even be blind and not bloom at all. It does happen after a division. So we'll have to wait and see, won't we? But it's going to need some energy because the blooms on this are huge. Yeah, so it's only going to bloom if the strength's there. Well, somebody asked the other day how my Laelia ancepts was doing, and I didn't answer then because I knew it was going to come up in, you know, this part 2 Cattleya video. So this is it. Now this had a miserable failure because it's got 2 leads, and the previous 2 leads for the first time ever didn't bloom. And I'm pretty certain I know why, because with discussions with others and a bit of reading and stuff like that, this is meant to be a cool grower. So I put it down near the floor so that the inlet fan blew on it, so it would get much cooler airflow as a consequence. But what I failed to realise, it also lost its light, and this needs good light to bloom. So that pair of growths didn't bloom for the first time in probably 3 years. So it ain't happening again. If it bloomed okay before, you sort of think, well, it goes back to the old expression, doesn't it? If it's not broke, don't fix it. Well, my fix ended up losing a year's bloom, so we won't be doing that again. It's back up on the top shelf, and it put up with the temperatures and light there and bloomed okay. So now it's back where it was comfortable before. So what we got here is 2 leads, heads off in 2 directions. It's got a pretty good root system, some inside the pot, some outside. The 2 new growths haven't started their new roots yet. All the roots that are on here are from previous growths, existing growths. But I do have 2 nice strong new growths, and I like the Laelia ancept. If you look at this one, it's starting to look more like a bulb. But if you look at this one, when they're young, they almost look like a different type of plant. Yeah? Because the bulb's not obvious at all. It almost looks like it's going to push out leaves. Well, it doesn't. And it does eventually look like that. So it's a strange one. Yeah, it takes on an odd shape as it's growing. But anyway, 2 nice new growths, and going back to its comfort zone where it once was, I see no reason why these 2 shouldn't bloom this time round. They'll be a bit staggered. They're not long lasting, ancepts blooms, 3 to 4 weeks I think, if you're lucky. The cooler it is, the longer they last. That really applies to most Cattleyas. And the spikes are quite long, so they do take quite a long time to grow and form their buds. So this is a long way off blooming, but I'm pretty confident it will this time round. And I'm looking forward to that, because for some reason Laelia ancepts, not one of the named varieties or anything like that, because there's all sorts of different forms, just the standard one, for me, just catches my eye. If ever I see one in amongst loads of other plants at a show, I'm drawn to it. And it's one of the first Cattleya types I had and got to bloom. And I've always liked these blooms over and above most others in the Cattleya range. So really looking forward to seeing these again. Missing a year out was quite disappointing for me. Just couldn't work out what I'd done wrong when I thought I'd actually improved its conditions. But you know, if you're going to change things, try changing things one at a time and not 2. Because what I did was lower its temperature, but I also changed its light level, yeah, and that seemed to just get it down below the level it was happy with. So it's back where it should be now, or where it blooms anyway, so we'll go with that. Right, and the last one for this video, mainly because I've got 3 minutes before it's builder time. It depends whether they sit around looking at stuff, drinking tea or coffee, or whether they crack on when the noise actually starts. But this is my, it's Laelia purpurata, and it's variety Atropurpurea. I really am looking forward to seeing the blooms on this, but so far, no go. What we've got on here is 2 leads, yeah? This is one new growth, and this is the other one. Now, reading and some other people's comments, this one should grow in the growing season, yeah? Now I think, because I got this from Equigenera, which is southern hemisphere basically, I think it was out of season when I got it, and it's taken a while hopefully to get back in step with where it should be, because previous new growths haven't grown at the right point in time, and what this needs is very high light to bloom, yeah? So it needs its new growths to grow and mature so that it's in the bright light season, if you see what I mean, and the longer days season, which these two have now done. You know, we're coming towards the end of June now. We've still got 2 months of good strong light and long days, and these aren't fully mature yet, yeah? The leaves are opening up, but they haven't flattened out yet, so there's still some growth going on here, and maybe this time we'll actually get some blooms. But if it's going to bloom, then soon it should form quite a large sheath. If it doesn't, then it's probably not going to bloom. Yeah, that's its growth pattern. Matures its leaf and its growth, pushes up a large sheath, and then don't hold your breath, because that's not when it blooms. It then rests. Finicky little tyke, this one. So after the sheaths have formed, it's got to rest a little bit. It has a period of quiet. Then the spike pushes up through the sheath. So I know what's supposed to happen. It's just getting it to flipping do it. Now, if it doesn't bloom this year, I've only got one last hope, and that's to try and hang this up with the Vandas for the next set of new growths. I'm not going to do it now because, quite honestly, it will be in the way up there, and because of the weight of the plant and pot combined, it's going to be a bit iffy putting it up on that wire with a clay pot and everything. Yeah, trying to get it securely fixed so that it doesn't drop and flatten everything underneath it. Anyway, we have 2 new growths. They are maturing. They're not there yet, and potentially it's got enough long days and good light to basically get it to produce those sheaths. And if I get the sheaths, then I can deal with them, and hopefully we'll get some blooms. It will be special if it does bloom. It was one of the named varieties of this particular Laelia that I picked out deliberately. There are many forms of Laelia purpurata. The other one I'm after is variety striata, which has the deep purple colours, but it's got veining as well, and that's very attractive. But so far I haven't come across one. But this one was a named variety I particularly wanted. Equigenera had it, so I thought we'll have that, even though I'm not that keen on buying from them. Their plants get a lot of mucking about to get to the UK. They're exported from Ecuador, basically. It's all in the name, you know, Equigenera. In bulk into Germany, into like a holding area, and then from there they pack up the plants and go off to the various shows, including shows like Malvern in England, in the UK. So those plants get messed about an awful lot, and they're bare rooted. At best they've got some sort of damp stuff wrapped around the base of the plant. They're nearly all in polythene bags. They're very prone to getting mould and things like that, especially in hot, moist weather. And they very rarely have a good root system. Well, this one had 2 new growths when I saw it, 'cause my daughter spotted it. She knew it was one of my named ones I wanted. She spotted it and said, look, they've got one you want, Dad. And I said, yeah, I'll bet it's got no flipping roots and no signs of new growth. Well, it had 2 new growths. And I thought, well, with those new growths, somewhere down the line will be roots. I'll take the risk. So I got it. And it's grown on quite well. Yeah, quite happy with its growth. All we need to do now is get the blighter to bloom. Okay, that's part 2 of the Cattleyas. I don't think I've missed any, but I might have done. I'm sure somebody will point it out if I have. But as I said, I'm on a time limit here, and that has just run out. So hope you've enjoyed this little Cattleya update, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for dropping by. And for those of you who've stayed till the end, a teaser. This is my Dendrobium friedrichsianum. Now, I was over the moon at getting second in class at an international orchid show. That's pretty flipping special. Unfortunately, I can't show you the lovely ribbon that I got, because all the awards on Bournemouth Orchid Society's display at Malvern are collected up together by the show team and presented at the next meeting, which is this Friday. Yeah? Now, as I've hinted, this story's not over yet. So after the meeting on Friday, I will do a video on Saturday that's a bit flipping special. Yes, we can have a look at the rosette, but there's more. See you on Saturday.